I'm a chiropractor, a certified nutrition specialist, and I have a diplomate in clinical nutrition. I've been in practice for 25 years in Atlanta, Georgia, and I have in my office is a multidisciplinary practice. I've worked with an acupuncturist for 22 years. However, she did retire last year. I currently have an AK diplomate in my practice, and it is just the two of us. As I have gotten older, I work less, but I also come from the belief I will probably never actually retire because I love what I do and I love this profession. I had a little bit of exposure to AK when I was a child. I played soccer at a fairly high level and I dislocated my kneecap, and I went to a chiropractor who did what he said was applied kinesiology. After the fact, I learned he did a little bit of muscle testing, but he did not do near the level of what is now professional applied kinesiology. So I had a little bit of exposure there. I then ended up at Emory University and then transferred into chiropractic school. When I was in chiropractic school, I went to Life University. It was at the time the largest chiropractic school in the world, and it was the best chiropractic school in the world. I wasn't very happy with chiropractic because they said they wanted to fix the cause of everything, and the subluxation was the cause. I never believed that, because if you were playing football and somebody takes out your knee, your atlas adjustment is not the cause of the problem. So I had heard about some applied kinesiology courses coming to Atlanta. I personally at the time was in very good shape, but I was having some injuries and some problems in the gym. I went to this seminar, and they were explaining that when a person is under high stress, they will make high cortisol, and that will therefore affect their aldosterone levels. I believe it was Wally Schmidt who was actually teaching that seminar. And if you have high cortisol and low aldosterone, you're going to have loose ligaments. And this turned a giant light bulb on in my brain of, this is why I'm having these injuries, because I was in very fit shape, but my joints were obviously not stabilized properly. So the question is, what do you do? And they mentioned you should nutritionally support it and such, which is exactly what I did. And within 2 weeks, I was back 100%, felt great. And that's really the beginning. I never have turned back. I spent all of my student loan money. I took out extra loans just so I could travel around the country to learn applied kinesiology, and it has really become my entire life. AK is such an interesting tool. I personally don't understand how any physical modality profession cannot use applied kinesiology. I could not do chiropractic without being able to muscle test. The medical doctors that I know who do functional medicine, I don't know how they can do it without muscle testing. It is the greatest non-invasive single tool that exists. There is no cost. It's a free, all the time, instant feedback mechanism. And I think that's what's so fascinating about it. And of course, Dr. George Goodhart was such an amazing clinician and so well read and so well versed that he could go take all these other tools and all these other methodologies and incorporate them into what is now applied kinesiology. So the topic I'm going to speak about is a little interesting. I always try to be a little eclectic in what I talk about. When I was in Bordeaux, France, the last time I spoke for the French in 2012, I actually talked about AK failures. And I showed some of the times that AK failed me in practice, or AK didn't necessarily work. And I gave some case studies and showing that. This time, I'm going to be a little bit more positive, and it's going to be a very eclectic talk. I want to speak about pearls. Over 25 years of doing applied kinesiology, I learned a lot of things traveling all over the world and learning from probably many, many more people than a lot of people get exposure to. So it's going to be a potpourri of randomness, perhaps. I also was a very young doctor when Dr. Goodhart was alive, Dr. Walther was alive, and I got some personal time with some of the greats, Dr. Wally Schmidt, again, when he was alive. So I believe I bring to the table a little bit different perspective because I was a very young guy. I wasn't like some of our senior people who have spoken for years and have been in practice almost twice as long as I have. That's what I believe I can bring. So it's again going to be a potpourri of pearls of wisdom, things that I hope people maybe have never seen before, or ideologies or things that I have learned through my many years of taking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of applied kinesiology. I have helped to teach and structure AK seminars for most of my 25 years. I was the president of the AK Club, so I have both taught and helped support teaching over all these years. What I would say to a fresh AK learner, I have said many times, AK can be very overwhelming in the beginning. And the reality is it's just so much information and you can't know it all. It's impossible to know it all. I will never know it all. What I love about traveling around the world is I've met so many different professions that use applied kinesiology in what works for them. And we really can't know it all. But an analogy would be, for those who are old enough or can Google, what is an encyclopedia? An encyclopedia was a series of books that used to try to cover a little bit about everything. That's kind of how I look at applied kinesiology. Do you want to start A, B, C, D, E? Or what if all of your patients' problems are in the S category? So it can be overwhelming. However, if you recognize that, you just have to start somewhere. So I typically recommend finding a teacher that you align with, finding a topic you align with. Let's say nutrition, you're really into nutrition and the metabolic factors, then start there. If you're very into sports and structural, then start there. If you're into the emotional realm and acupuncture, meridian-based stuff, start there. You can't know it overnight, and it's essentially a journey, and it's going to be a lifelong journey. So don't get overwhelmed. Also, you have to recognize the key to applied kinesiology, in my opinion, is not the muscle test. It is the way you think. It is learning how to think and break something down and look at the big picture. That, I believe, is the gift of what a good applied kinesiologist can do. Over time, as we have these giant toolbox and toolkits of things to do, we get much better to where it starts to become, we just do it intuitively. We think it's intuition. However, maybe it's just because we start to be able to recognize so many different things at one time that we already know the answer and we don't even know how we got to that answer anymore. So start slow, but understand you can spend the rest of your life learning and helping people. Another thing I'll mention for a fresh AK learner is every time I've taken a seminar, I don't look at the money. I learn something, and guaranteed that next week or the next week after that, I'm going to have somebody come in and I'm going to have learned something that helps me be a better doctor, that helps my patient better. So money should not ever be an option for, should I take this seminar if I really want to take it? The answer would always be yes. You want to spend the money because it's going to come back to you tenfold.